welcome to the Artist Talk. This is a very special one for me, as you know, and for Alan, who's also a very close friend. And so,
No doubt.
thank you for making some time for us, because I know you got other things on your plate.
Yeah, no
So,
doubt.
Min, let's, I was kind of, let's get this started. I started kind of mentioning you and kind of glorifying your talents and stuff, but I think we should start from the beginning, right? And there's something really quite special about your story, and this slide that I put up, down since day one. And you are a young kid, the Upper West Side, a lot of swagger you could see on the board. But who were you really when you were a kid? What was it like growing up in your neighborhood? What was your childhood like that set you up for this skateboarding culture, graffiti, and so on?
Well, growing up, my father, I grew up with a lot of money. My dad had a lot of money, and I lived on the Upper West Side, and I ventured off into Central Park, and it's the band shell. You were calling it something else before. Um, but that's where we all used to hang out, like the original RTWs, Bill Rock, um, and RTW was invented. There were five of us there. We call it the Five Fingers of RTW in 1976. Yeah. Yo, man.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
lost you.
yeah. Unfortunately, hang on a second. Um,
What's
let me
going
see if I
on?
could adjust this, because somebody was calling me through Facebook.
Right.
Why is this not working? Okay, here we go. Here we go. I'm sorry, Wayne. Let's start back talking about the band shell.
All right. That's like where the original RTW, started hanging out. Like 77. Um, it was originally started in 76. It was called the Five Fingers of RTW. There were five of us that was there when Bill Rock invented Rolling Thunder. And
Who were the five?
it was me, Bill Rock, um, this guy Joe. He wasn't really a graffiti writer, but he was a graffiti writer. He was like a hippie guy that used to hang out with us. Um, Rasta, and you know what? I can't even remember the fifth. It's been so long, man. Huh? No, it wasn't a revolt. Um, but anyway, eventually we all wound up in a reform school, Hawthorne Cedar Knolls, and I think Bill Rock did a couple of years there. I did a year there, and I ran away. And I wound up meeting up with Zephyr, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yo, I explained to him my situation. He was like, "Yo, come by my crib. I got my own crib. You know, we go bombing all the time, this and that." 2 days later, I was at his door, knocking on his door. I think when I was watching his interview, he even told you about it. And
Yeah.
so anyway, I mean, that was like the graffiti crib, and all the graffiti writers would be there. SI3, let him rest in peace. He never used to go writing. Um, he used to write Petro 5. He's an old writer, from like, the rebels, like that clique. You know what I'm saying? Like that side. And every night we would just go bombing, you know. Every single night we would go to the one layups and hit the insides. And that was 77. I think I was about 12, 13. And we would go every single night and just bomb the layups. Me, Mackie, Zephyr. And then I kind of branched off. It was just like me and Mackie. Me and Mackie, like, were partners, and we were like bombing together a lot. And you know, we hit the ones for like a couple of years, and then we just like moved on, So it went to
Also, I
like,
mean, I remember that crew, right? Maggie, they were all street bombers, right? With the OPEG inks.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
We all used to
all the
tag, yeah,
mailboxes up and down Central Park West, Columbus, and Amsterdam, and the windows on the ones. So the RTW crew had a very distinct style of writing, but a placement and also the inks, the OPEG inks. You guys were heavy into that.
yeah. I used to spend like 2 or 3 hours on like my desk, like mixing my markers, my pentels. They used to have these markers. They were all silver. Old writers like Part and Jester, and a bunch of old writers. I know they remember them. They were like silver markers, and you push on them. You fill them up with ink, and then you push them on them, and they would flood. Do you remember those, man?
Nice. Yeah. Well, not, I don't know the brand, but speaking of old markers, man, we're looking at this old NE throw up,
Right.
1979 Return to Burn,
Yeah, that's crazy.
FTW TMA Rolling Thunder.
Right.
What a great drawing. I've never seen this style, kind of a mosaic style, old school burner. Who were you learning from in terms of at this point? What were you looking at?
I'll tell you, when I did that, that was really, I had a tag that when I first started out, that was kind of looked like that. And I remember the first time I went to Zephyr's house and I did it, he had like this piece of cardboard and I tagged on it. And he was like, yo, where'd you come up? How'd you make up that N? And I said, I don't know. I just made it up. You know what I'm saying? So that piece is kind of like the tag that I originally started writing NE with. So
And
I really can't say, it kind of like, I don't know, like, everybody gets something from somebody. You know what I'm
of
saying?
course.
I can't remember where I got that from. That looks like something like I either came up in a dream, or just, it came out of my originality, out of, my
Yeah.
artistic talent,
So
you
so
know,
Wayne, let me ask you this. Let's just kind of maybe start to from the little before this. What got you into writing in the first place? Why did you want to be a writer?
all right, this is the deal. Like I said, my father was very wealthy. We used to live on 66th Street in like a high-rise building, you know, like real rich building. And my aunt lived in Church Avenue in Brooklyn on the D train. And every weekend we would go visit her. And I would see nothing but, ins and DYs. And I was like, what, 10, 11 years old at that time, you know? That was like way before I even ever thought about writing, you know, when I was living with my dad.
And so
And
let
I
me
would,
ask you something at that point, Wayne, if I could interrupt, because I'm showing slides of in and
right,
his influence on your min throw ups and your NE throw ups.
right.
What was it about in that really inspired you?
His name was everywhere, you know, you know, double deckers, you know, whole trains, you know. So it was like, you know, when I saw that, you know, and I'll tell you whose name I used to see a lot too is Vinny on the A's and Is. I see Is up a lot too. But Is came a little later. He came up a little later than those guys. You know, my boy Mike, let him rest in peace. You
Yes,
know,
of course.
he's a very
And
good friend of mine.
what about I'm sorry, and what about Jester? What was it? We're looking at a classic Jester tag, and we just had a talk with him. What is it about his handwriting, his bombing that got you like hyped about him?
It was just so original, and like he was saying, it was bouncy and moving. And if you looked at, you know, if you look at my tags and, you know, my graffiti, it's the same way. It's like bouncy and it has movement and it has like flair and style to it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And very neat, you know, to show that you had like, you know, talent. You know what I'm saying? Not just like, oh, I'm just gonna write my name here. It's like, no, I'm gonna write my name here, and dudes are gonna remember my name because they're gonna remember the style behind it. You know what I'm saying? And
So what?
so how I originally got into it was just seeing week after month after year, you know, a couple of years going to my aunt's, seeing all these names. And I didn't know how these guys did it. I said, what they do? Stand in the train station and do it? You know, I was a little kid. I didn't know they about train yards and stuff like that. Then I started putting things together. Like, oh, they must have a place where they park trains. And then I started meeting people because I used to go to a private school called Walden on 88th Street. I used to go to school with like Gene Wilder's daughter. You know, there were like a lot of famous actors' daughters that went to that school. I'm sure you heard of it.
Yeah. Were there any
You
other
know,
writers back
yeah,
then?
there was a guy named John One, Jon, Won, kind of like John 156, but I mean, this was like many, many years before. You know, he had like long, real long hair. I mean, everybody back then that wrote graffiti that was white had, you know, long hair. You know, they were like hippies. You know, all the writers that wrote back then, you know, they all had long hair except me. My hair was like down to like my shoulders. I never had like real long hair. You know,
And
and
Wayne, we're looking at an early NE piece uh,
right,
on on Broadway next to a gin piece.
right,
And I noticed something on this piece. It's a very early piece, but I see that you wrote Vice Squad, right? And
right.
this is TBS before TBS.
Right. Now, you know, this is the thing. I've seen a lot of interviews. This is the true story about TVS, the Vice Squad. Zephyr made up the Vice Squad. All right. He gave it to me. I bombed it. You know, my boys bombed it. Shock, Rin, you know, everybody else that I was writing with at the time, Bill Rock. And then I gave it to Shock because we started, you know, like robbing dudes at the band show. And it became the Vamp Squad. And then I gave it to Shock because he was the main vamper. He was the vamper. If anybody knows about graffiti, Shock 123 was the vamper. You know what I'm saying? So I gave it to him. That's the true story about TVS. All those stories you've heard, you just heard it from the mouth of the person who, you know, it was given to me and then I gave it down. So it was like a third generation crew. Zephyr started at the Vice Squad, and then I kept at the Vice Squad. I was like the second generation. I was like the pres of it because he gave it to me, and then we made it the Vamp Squad. So it was like three generations, really.
And
You
so
know what I'm
we're looking
saying?
at a, yeah, thank you for sharing that bit of history, because that's a gem right there that we
Yeah,
should
that
know.
no, and that's the truth. That's everybody else that tells these stories. I'm like, yo, where do these guys get these stories from? Are they like, forgetting, or are they just straight up not telling the truth? You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't matter to me. I just told you the truth, where it came from.
There it
You know what I'm
is.
saying?
So,
And
but
how
what
it
I want to
started.
thank you, man. And so this is what I want to know. As I'm looking at this NE piece, I see that you are really getting into wild style at this point. Um,
Yeah, I
and
was
and
trying. I was
and
trying.
right. And so this style, you're developing a style, let's just say, and but it's not your typical RTW style.
Right.
Um, here's one with Rasta.
Yeah, that
Now,
came out in High Times magazine. That picture came out in High Times magazine.
nice.
You didn't know that?
Nope, I didn't know that.
Wow.
This one was an unusual one. I never saw this
Yeah, I
on
got
a
chased.
really old train. But you could see so much changing already when you're such a young writer, in terms of your
Yeah.
development. Look how, like, I mean, that's like straight up, like, you know, knock and the best of the best, that whole
Yeah, and
style.
I mean, yeah, it was crazy because, you know, it had like a lightning bolt if you see coming off the bottom of the E, if you look
Yep,
close.
yep,
You
yep. I'm
see?
looking at it now.
I didn't really quite know what I was doing, but I was trying. If I would have finished it, it would have looked a lot better, and you would have been able to understand it a lot better. You know?
And here you partner up with T Kid. You and him painted quite a bit.
No, I didn't do that. I wasn't there when
You
I
did.
did that. When that was done, no, I gave T Kid the paint, and he went and did that whole car by himself. A
Oh,
lot
I
of
thought you
people
guys.
weren't. No,
Right. That,
a lot of
that,
people weren't aware of that. T Kid did that for me. I just gave him the paint because like I couldn't like get out the house that night. So
mhm.
he came all the way out to Brooklyn because I grew up in Flatbush. After my dad like sent me to reform school after I screwed up with him. Because like I said, he was like a rich. He was a pharmacist. He used to own a pharmacy on 68th and Madison Avenue. So he was very wealthy. So he couldn't relate to all this crazy stuff that I was getting into. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
it,
Sure. And so his response was what? Just to disown you, or just to.
well, he disowned me for some time, but when I was about 20 years old, I met up with him and his new wife with my girlfriend, and we went out to dinner. And I brought my portfolios of. I had two portfolios. One was all of um, canvases, and one was all of trains. And he was an art collector himself. He was very rich, so he had like some very valuable artwork himself. And
But did he find any
he
value
loved
in
my
your work?
art. Oh yeah, he loved my work. He was like, "Damn, it's a shame that this is illegal." Because you know you're very talented. Which I was surprised that he even admitted. You know.
We're looking at a picture of a young you and a young everyone. Is the Wiz, Satch, and Dell. And from what you were just mentioning about your dad, you know, it's funny because what our parents couldn't see in us, we saw in each other, right?
Exactly.
And so as we think about that, and let's talk about Mike is one of the great legendary painters of graffiti.
Yeah, that
Um,
was one of my biggest partners. You know, I mean, I did a lot of bonding with Mike. It was at a point where like me and him used to race each other on the A's because there was nobody else to give us competition. Because like Jester had already quit. He quit, I think he said in '79. And the weird thing about Jester and myself is we both wrote for 8 years. You know, because I wrote from '77 and I quit in '85. I mean, I did some more pieces after that, but I'm talking about bombing straight.
Hmm.
Just about every day. And I basically bombed just
Yeah.
almost every day, man. It was
Well,
ridiculous,
and I
especially
feel,
when I was taking over. When I was taking over every line, with top to bottom wild styles, and it was a weird thing because me and Dondi used to always argue. God rest his soul. He's a good friend of mine too. Um, Dondi was incredible. He used to say that it was impossible to do a wild style on a Ridgie or an air conditioner or a slant. And I remember told him I was going to go do that Shy 147 old car in his
which we
memory.
have.
God rest his soul.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
we
you have a
have that.
picture.
I can pull that up uh, for everyone to see because I mean we're heading in that direction, but we might as well talk about it because that's such an amazing production.
Yeah, that
And
car was crazy. And I could tell
yeah,
you a crazy story about that car.
yeah, please do. Here it
All
is.
right. I was with my boy Mace, who was an old double R writer, and he didn't really write, for very long, but he was a writer and he was a good friend of mine when I lived in Astoria in '85. And that was right around when Shy had passed away. And you know, as soon as I did that car on a Sunday afternoon from like 12 till like dinner time. I was like there all day, just like bugging out. We were like, after I was done, we were like hanging out. But as soon as I put the last line of spray paint on that car, the church bells, there's a church upstairs in City Hall. The church bells started ringing. Like Shy was there watching me do that. And, started ringing the church bells. And Mace was like, yo, did you hear that? And I'm like, yo, we were like bugging out because that was like really deep, you know, like as soon as I put the last line of paint on that car, church bells started ringing. Now, who was ringing those bells? Shot 147.
Yeah, and what a tribute. I mean, and
You
of
know?
course, proving to Dondi that's that you can do a wall style top to bottom on Ridgies.
Oh, when Dondi saw that, he flipped out. He said, oh my God, you painted that like it was a flat. I can't believe you did that. I said, I told you, Dondi. And there's a picture of me that my girlfriend at the time took a picture of because it was laid up in the train station because we were in the front car. I was taking her home from school, and we saw the car was laid up in the train station. And I jumped down, and she took a picture of me standing in front of it.
It's amazing.
As you could see, that's like total '85 style. But I had my own style of dressing. You know, I think I
Yeah,
had on like purple and pink gazelles, and that was Shy's hat I was wearing too.
so I want to talk
And
about me that crossover right between RTW and rock. I mean, we had known RTW before we were rock. Kel and I, because we would visit Bill Rock. We met him many years ago because we were in that neighborhood. But when
right,
you met, when it was interesting, right?
lived
Because
on
here we have
82nd Street.
yeah, and so here we have a Kel Kaj Shy, and me with Zeph, and you see the CIA, and this is where kind of worlds kind of like mesh, right? Because this is that era where this meeting up at Sam Essie's studio, and Dondi and all of us, so we're all meeting, RTW. But like, how did one thing I never quite figured out was how that transition happened from Rolling Thunder Riders to Rock the World, right?
Well,
Did,
I had a lot of different names for that crew. Rock the Women, Rock Toy Writers, Alive Five, let him rest in peace. I used to write with him a lot too. He was a ball buster, as a matter of fact. Um,
yeah, I remember him.
he called it because we were bombing in the snow once, and he called it regardless the weather. I mean, I had so many names for that, and then it was RTW Wow when I teamed
Yeah.
up with Bo, Words of Wisdom. Then we called it Rocking the World of Writers Our Way, you
So,
know?
because here we have a picture of you entering New Lots, and one of the things I was telling you is like you were one of the things I think Kel and I admired about you was that you were you were like us. You weren't afraid to travel, to go the distance, to go to the layup from the Bronx to East New York or Rockaways. You were down
As a
for
matter of fact, there were so many times we hit New Lots and then we went to Queens and bombed the Ding Dongs the same, like early in the morning, the same night,
yeah.
which is
So when
like
you get out,
real
when you
far.
Min, when you get out to East New York and Brooklyn and you meet Dondi, um, what was your relationship with him like, and in terms of as writers, and did you get to paint with him? Um,
Yeah, me and
during
Dondi did um like towards the end of his career, we did a bus mid, but it pulled out on us. And I remember Duro was there, and Duro wanted a piece with us, and Dondi was like, "No, it's just going to be a bus mid." And like Duro was like beefing about it, and Dondi was just like, "No, it's just going to be a bus mid. I want to do a car with mid." Me and him never did a car before, and it pulled out. And Dondi like pulled out a ladder out of nowhere, and was like chasing the train with the ladder, like to the front of the yard, and like outlined the B and part of the U. It was crazy, you know. But
amazing for sharing that.
yeah,
Y- y-
Dondi was like, Dondi, so you know how Dondi was. Dondi had to like really get to know you and have a special liking for you to even talk to you, because Dondi was a very, you know how he was.
Yeah,
Dondi
it's
was a
very
very
private.
unique. He was a very unique, private person. You know what I'm saying? And he was definitely one of a kind, in his own way, just like Shy was one of a kind. And God rest his soul.
Yeah, and
God
I'm
rest
looking at a
both their
picture
souls.
of you, Shy and Duro by Marty Cooper in New Lot's yard. And yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things that I appreciate about this photograph, man, is that look at how serious and focused you guys have been, were
Yeah,
over
it's
this time.
crazy. Yeah.
I mean, these are kids that are, and what people may not know, if you look at Shy is half his body's hanging
I
inside the train,
know.
and he's
I
standing on the
know.
third rail.
Yeah, we had the doors, the side doors open. You'd pick up the corner seat and you'd pick up that lever and it would open up the doors.
Tell me about this night with Marty Cooper photographing you guys. What were you guys doing?
I was just doing throw ups that night. They did Shy with it was a Shy with a spray can with boxing gloves and a Duro, and it said Art versus Transit.
What an
You
amazing
know,
night. That's a classic whole car.
yeah, yeah, I was there that night, and it was weird because that night, about like 7 o'clock in the morning, like the sun was up and everything. Like 100 work bums came out, like work bums that must have been working in New Lots for like 30 years because they all had gray hair. They were like 7 feet tall, 6'6", all had big wrenches and everything, and they were cleaning up the yard. And Shy's over there yelling at them with a big work bum stick. we're not leaving the yard till we finish this piece. So don't come, fucking with us, And I was like, yo, Shy. There was nobody like Shy, man. Nobody
No,
like him.
I
God
I
rest
would
his
agree.
soul. You wrote with
Yes,
him. You know how he was. There was nobody like him, man.
I
Nobody
would
like him.
agree.
You
Hey,
know?
Wayne, so I put up these two pictures to lead us into Style Wars and our
Yeah,
experience
I
with
was with you that
Henry,
night.
going to New Lots, and
Yeah, we brought Henry to New Lots that night.
that we allowed we allowed we allowed them to photograph us, and we were comfortable with that. And what's your thought about that relationship of having these people, Henry and Marty, document you as you're bombing?
Say that again? Say that again?
What's your thought about Henry and Marty? To having them document you over the years when you were bombing.
Right.
What was
Oh,
that? What was
I
that
thought it
like for
was
you?
great. I mean, I got along a lot better with Henry than Martha. Me and Martha kind of, she's a nice lady, but I was always a lot closer with Henry. You know, Henry's like a dad to me. You know,
Hmm. And so Star
you know.
Wars happens, and we have this infamous clip.
Look at that
It's
picture.
become so iconic.
Twos and fives, the twos and fives used to go to the 2 yard. It would be like a masterpiece art gallery of burners from all these dudes from the Bronx and Brooklyn, from Death Wild Styles. Now you go to the 2 yard, it's all destroyed. This guy named Cap with his Lucille ball hairdo, all your burners.
So when we think about this, right? One of the things I love about this, looking back, is that you were a hard rock. You were a young kid who was not afraid of anything or anyone, and to call it as it is. But more importantly, the reverence you have for the history of graffiti, the
Oh
love you have
yes,
for it at such a young
yeah.
age.
That's one thing I definitely. I mean, if you are a true king and a true legend, you have to know your history. And I mean, that's one thing. I definitely know my history. That's why, I wanted to, set a few, things straight, like about TVS. And, there's a lot of stuff people say and, they just make up their own stories and everything. I don't know to sound good or to lie. I don't know. Everybody's got their own reason. But to me, I never had a reason to lie. You know what I'm saying? To me, the truth was the truth. I trust, a thief before I trust a liar. Because if you were a thief, I know where you were coming from. If you were a liar, I didn't know where you were coming from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one thing I'll never forget, which is like, was like a highlight in my writing career, was the time I was in the back of the 3 yard and I met Part and Cool, and they said that I reminded them of, and I was with the Vamp Squad, Shock and Rin and the whole crew, and Part and Cool said I reminded them of Ivory, who was Fuzz,
Oh
and
yes.
and I saw so many Part and Cool pieces, when I was like a toy hitting insides on the insides of the one trains, and one thing I always gave a lot of respect to the Death Squad. They used to, you know, they used to do amazing murders on the one trains, and a lot of other lines. But I see Part and Cool top to bottoms and murders, and you know,
What
that
about
influenced
TMT?
me.
Did TMT have any influence on you at all? Chain, Cade, Cade and Team.
Um, I was more of a TDS guy. I like TDS stuff. You know, I mean, they had nice cars too. You know, I can't deny that they had really nice cars too.
Well,
But
one of the things I'll add for this next segment, right, is about how much you cared about all these cars, right? And again, one of the just clips that we all repeat now and again in our lives, was at Henry's studio.
Yeah, look at Shy.
That's never forgive action.
So this never forgive action, right? When somebody goes over you, you know, the one thing for sure, TBS, RTW, our crews all knew beef, whether it was Rocksteady, whether it was
Yeah,
us. We, I guess when you're at the top, when you get a certain tier in that
it's all
generation,
about beef. It's all about
yeah,
beef.
yeah,
You know that. I mean, Cap even said I was the only writer to ever take him off the 2s and 5s and 1s. The only writer to ever take him off the lines. You know, because I stomped all his shit, all of it. And you know that,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and there was a moment where that whole beef got a bit too hostile, and
Yeah.
just kind of we had to mature a little quicker than we wanted, I guess. But again,
Yeah,
for
it's
us,
getting out of hand.
it was a love, and you know, one of the things, I got a picture of Shy, and I
Look
love
at
that
that.
piece when Shy talks about like how hurt he was about getting crossed out,
What,
and
that
I
Min
think
Shy? That Shy
yeah,
Min? Yeah, he's like, that was our new car, man. I wouldn't have minded if they went over one of our older cars, but, you know, that was a brand new car, bro. You know? Yeah, I think about my brother every day, man. You know, there was nobody like Shy 147. And, you know, I just wanted to say, you know, this whole story I'm telling is dedicated to Shy 147 in heaven. You know what I'm saying?
respect,
And there's every day I think about you, my brother, and you know the influence you had on me and everything. It was like, you know, when he passed away, it was like I just had girls like left and right. I would get a new girl every day. It was like everything he was, he left in his soul. He kind of left with me when he passed away, you know. And I'm sure you even kind of saw that, you know, when he
yeah,
passed away, how I
yeah, yeah.
was, you
Yeah,
know.
we were close, so I get it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, me and
somebody,
you
you
were
know, you
real
took it.
close, man.
Yeah, what's interesting is you took it to transit, right? You really vented on transit. You took a lot of your, I mean, but it wasn't just the outsides; it was the insides. You were really kind of going through. I mean, you were relentless when you were younger, but when Shy passed, you became even more so.
Yeah. Those were like brand new painted Ridgies and brand new redone Ridgies. And I caught those in 75th Avenue with Ant. And that was like in 86. Like after I had already quit. I mean, I like went, you know, I made a comeback, you know. That's 75th Avenue right there. That Proof 2 tag, that's one of my other
Hmm.
tags too.
Hmm.
I mean, look at the 2 on that tag, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's again, you know, that tag to me shows again the influences that you've mentioned before, right?
Yeah,
That generation of hand stylers, it was so beautiful.
yeah. I mean, tags. I mean, it's crazy, you know. I mean, your brother Kel, you know, I took him doing throw ups, and your brother, you know, hated throw ups. And me and him went and did throw ups one day in the one tunnel, and Kel was like, because he was one of my best, you know, my biggest, best partners. You know what I'm saying? He was the last dude I wrote with, really. Him and Bo, you know, and I was writing with him and Bo at the same time, you know. And you know, when Kel was doing throw ups, after he did the throw ups, he was like, "Wow, man, that's more fun than doing burners, bro." I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you said that." You know?
It
Yeah,
was
Kel, with your
late to the
brother was
game.
like, you know, he had a lot of influence on me too, and you know, it was weird because when we first teamed up as partners, you know, and not only were we partners, but we were like best friends too, you know. Um, I learned a lot from him. And kind of towards the end, he was learning from me, you know, so it was like a give and take type, relationship, you know. And he was an amazing writer to, do cars with, you know. We did
he
a
seemed to. He
lot of
pushed you.
cars.
He pushed you
Yeah,
hard. He
yeah,
pushed
he
you really
pushed me
hard, but
hard.
also
Yeah, he really did.
you. It goes back and forth because, as I was mentioning before, you challenged him with style and what he thought of style,
Yeah,
and he always wanted to elevate, style, and when he went to the R's with you, he started to do these wild style tag burners, which was so unusual,
yeah.
like an
That's like
homage to the 70s.
that's like where graffiti started from, outlining tags. You know, the
Yeah, those.
masterpieces that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kel's whole thing about that was about. And it was like, I don't know, man. Your brother was an amazing writer, man. You know, he
Yeah,
really
I,
was. He
I, I,
was.
I agree.
I
He's a
had a lot
master.
of partners, and you know, and when it came to bombing, it was like is quick. They were great bombers and everything. Let is rest in peace. He was a great guy too, man, and I miss him a lot too. But you know, Kel was just like, I don't know, man. You know, the way he would just like approach his burners and just like do them, it would just like I could that energy would like go right through the third rail up into my body. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Through my body into my arm, out the spray can. You know,
Yeah, and your
and that's how I
relationship.
really that's how I
Yeah,
really got good. At the end was a lot of stuff that writing with your brother. He influenced me a lot. And I wrote a lot without him, like a lot of all those cars, because I did wild style top to bottoms all city, which no
yeah.
writer I think could say ever did before. Nobody ever did wild styles on slants and air conditioners and ridgies and all those trades I was doing on. And
We're
like,
gonna, I'm gonna go into that. I'm gonna show some of those men, but what I'm looking at
yeah,
now is your any throw up, right? And
right.
one of the things,
That's an early one
that's an
when I
early
first
one,
came
right?
out with that
And
style. Yeah,
right, and so what I want to show folks is that the evolution of this throw up, right? How you finessed it, and it's quite a beautiful transition, right? Because you could see how you may be a small person that you can't even get up to the window, and then when you finally fine tune it, it's balanced, it's plump, it's how do you call it, uh, confident, and you start tagging into your throw ups like either sometimes lyrics or sayings like no sun. Tell me about
yeah.
this.
That
Tell me.
was that was actually over Agent Lionel because he came to the BMTs and did some throw-ups. That's why I wrote, "No, son, you ain't coming on to my lines doing no throw-ups. Anything you do, I'll catch it." I mean, I caught every train on the BMTs, on the IRTs, many times over. The ding dongs. I mean, there were times I bombed the whole E&F yard, you know, by the Van Wyck Expressway, which is a huge yard of ding dongs, E's and F's, and Ridgies, and they would buff everything before it would pull out. And then I'd go back during the week and do it all over again, you know?
And when what surprised me, Min, was when you teamed up with Wow, all the way out in
Yeah,
Coney Island,
yeah.
because you had beef
Dewey
with them,
Yard
right?
was something else. Yeah, I used to have beef with them, yeah.
And then
They
they
were the
became
only
arch enemies.
crew they were the only crew I ever had beef with that we squashed it and didn't fight. Because everybody knows when me and Bo were bombing with throw ups, I mean, if you went over Bo and I met you, we were fighting. If you went over me and Bo met you, y'all were fighting. And the same with your brother, you know.
Yeah.
If you dissed me and Kel caught you, you were getting it. If you dissed Kel and I caught you, you were getting it. We were going for ours, you know what I'm saying?
Another bomber you went AWOL with was like crazy. It was crazy when you and Paid were bombing. Holy
Yeah.
shit! Every day I'd get on because I was at one point on the F line. I mean, you guys were all city, but man, you and Paid went to work.
Yeah, that was, you know, he was one of my partners, you know.
And then
But
also,
I don't think anybody bombed drops with me like Bull. Me and JL went nuts before we quit in '85. Me and him went berserk on top to bottoms, throw ups, everything.
why'd you
Beating
quit?
dudes down. Huh?
Why'd you quit?
Well, it came to the point that I did everything I had to do. And there were writers that were going over me on the INDs that I'd catch. I'd beat them down. Then they'd still go over me, beat them down again. They'd still go over me. I said, yo, it's going to come to a point where I'm going to have to kill one of these dudes. You know what I'm saying? Because when I used to write, I was like totally different person than I am now. You know, now I'm a man. You know, I'm not into any of that anymore. You know, and it was just like I felt like I finally achieved everything that I wanted to achieve to be an all-time true legend of MTA. You know, so it was like, what else can I do? You know, stand on my head when the trains stand on my head on the train when it's going through the station. You know what I'm saying?
I got you. So here, one of the things I wanted to show in these next few slides is the development of the throw up and min. How interesting it is to me as we look at these throw ups, right? And your
Right.
top to bottom throw ups. But then you start doing these kind of like style-y throw ups. You know, they're really
You see
fresh.
everybody's underneath me, right? You see dudes underneath me, right?
Yes. Yeah. So so
Nobody wanted to have war with me, bro.
so what's up
Nobody
with
wanted to
these
have
like
war with
simple
me.
throw ups you got into? Why'd you start doing these?
Other people didn't do them. Other people weren't doing them like that. So I said, you know, let me do something that somebody never did before. And I'll tell you, I did a lot of them on the Ding Dongs that you didn't even see, man, because they got buffed the same week I did them. Like, you think I bombed there? There was so much stuff I did that got buffed before you saw it. You have no idea, you know?
So we're looking at some of these top to bottoms. We were talking about style top to bottoms, and I've loved seeing all of these. Again,
That was
because
buffed like 3 times, that top to bottom.
so I'll tell you why I like seeing these because one, they're there's you got some style going on them. They ran for a long time, um, but it's something that you kept kind of
Look
following
at that
up on,
Kel
right?
Min.
The Kelmin on the one line,
Yeah, I
I
love
top the
that
bottom
car.
next to you that night. But also, like when you look at the again, we're seeing this is just a fraction of your work.
Yeah, very small fraction. And that was called God's Creations. That was something that Cheyenne Kell used to write on the sixes.
And then of
Do you
course
remember that?
yeah, and
God's
here I want to point.
Creations?
Yep, and you know what, Min, on this whole when going from there to here,
That's Kell, Dove. I did that for Kell.
right? And
Dove
this
2
is what I
was
wanted to
Kell.
talk to you about the wild style top to bottoms, right?
Look at that shit, bro. And that wasn't even finished.
Tell us why. What happened here that night?
Me and Mo got raided. I mean, look, that's all Marlin Blue and Regal Red. That was done in the catwalk in 175th. That was a double A yard. And there must have been about 20 cops running down that catwalk. You know, it was
And then of
crazy.
course the shy top to bottom.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man. I love that car. That's my favorite car, bro.
And here,
And
here,
look at
let's talk
this,
about the white elephants, man. Because
right?
how crazy was that? That the New York City transit system, in order to eradicate graffiti, decided, you know what? Let's paint the trains white. They'll
Yeah,
never write on them.
yeah. Thanks for the white background. Yeah, if
So
I
this
would have
min,
finished that one, forget it. That one was coming out real nice.
where were you painting this one, and who are you with?
That was in the ghost yard. I don't remember who I was with when I did that. I might
You
have been
weren't
by
afraid to go to
myself.
layups alone, right?
No, I used to go all by myself all the time. I used to go to new lots by myself all the time and almost walk into like, work bums. Like I'd be at the end of the lane doing like doing my last NE on the first car, and the guys pulling out the trains, we'd almost walk into each other. And they'd see this little white dude with blonde hair in East New York. That must have made like dinner talk for months, you know?
So we're looking at this min piece right here, and what's interesting to me again that you're
Yeah,
clipping your
that's
homie is the Wiz
right.
on this. Did he ever like complain about that?
No, not at all, because that was a burner. Burners went over
Explain that
throw
to
ups.
us. Yeah,
All right,
explain the hierarchy to us.
all right. The thing is, if I had to throw up and let's say Kel, my partner, one of my best partners, my last partner, as a matter of fact, him and Bo, if he did a burner and he went over an NE floating, I wouldn't get mad. It's a throw up. You know what I'm saying? I do thousands and thousands of those. You know what I'm saying? And Iz was my brother. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't done in any disrespect. Because Iz knows, I love the Michael brother, man. You know? So there was no, you know, there was no, he wasn't mad or, he wouldn't even say anything to me. As a matter of
Right.
fact, there used to be Iz throw-ups kissing NEs. Have you ever seen those?
No.
Yeah. The eye was like kissing the nose on the E. Then I'd be like, yo, Iz, what's wrong with you, bro? You bugging, man. You bugging. And he would laugh.
He's he's amazing. It's funny. I'll share with you that when I was younger and coming up, he was him and the Master Blasters were a crew that I
Oh,
admired for
yeah.
how hard they bombed. And I
Oh, the
never
Master
imagined,
Blasters.
right? I never
Yep.
imagined that I would ever bomb with him or get to hang out with him, and it did, and just be part of the crew.
Right.
Um, and
And you
but
did.
he's big. When you think of kings of throw ups and like Cliff
Yeah.
is in you. I mean there are lots, but
Yeah.
he's right up there.
Oh, hell yeah. Is forget it. Nobody bombed like Mike. Mike was crazy.
Uh,
Me and him raced each other, all we would do was argue at breakfast of who had more throw ups that morning. You know? We'd be eating French toast, arguing about, no, no, I'm the king, I'm the king. But one thing about City Hall, that was my layup. I used to live in that layup, man.
yep, I want to know. Yeah, that was an important layup for you. Was
Yeah,
the
me and
layup
Kel went
where?
there and did everything, bro. Me and Kel did everything there. A lot of
Yep.
cars, you
What was it
know?
about City Hall? And explain to people
Look
exactly
at that.
where it's
Look,
located.
you were with us that day. That's on the ceiling of City Hall.
That's amazing.
On the stick out. You were there that day.
1983.
Yep.
Explain City Hall to people because it's important for people to understand what that layup is and where it is.
It's a train station underneath City Hall train station where they lay up trains. And I would just go there, and it was like being on a regular platform and just do. Me and Kelly used to do three old cars in a row with silvers with characters. Wild Styles, everything, man. I
And
used
it's
to go
important.
there. Go ahead.
Man, it's also important to note to people that your, City Hall, where the mayor's office is right above you. You're right next to the
Yeah.
Supreme Court, Police One. I mean, this is crazy, right? That you are in an area that should be so highly secure, and you're running this layup.
Yeah, it's crazy. Carol Bellamy, I have a picture on my site on Instagram, and you could see came out in the newspaper. Carol Bellamy was pointing at a mid-one tag.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, in City Hall layup, actually pointing to it, like she knew it stood out from like other graffiti. Like she knew, like, damn, look at. She must have said, "This guy has a nice hairstyle," you know. And it's everywhere, all over this layup. You never caught this guy, which they didn't, you know.
Man, this picture right here means a lot to me because, as I mentioned before, it's RTW past and present, and
Yeah,
Kel being the latter, right? Like Bill Rock, who passed the crew off to you, and with Kel, and you guys in City Hall layup. These photos, of course, by Henry Chalfant. Yeah, that layup. I mean, look at the productions, so people can see.
that's all City Hall
Yeah.
we got. You know, one thing I wanted to mention, man, I always wanted to mention my boy EL3 because
Oh
in
yeah.
80, in
TNS. Yeah.
82, 82, 83, this guy EL3 from the Lower East Side, let him rest in peace, had this crew called the Non-Stoppers. And he didn't have a lot of paint, but this guy would go bombing. And it was bad because he got thrown out of the house by his parents. And he used to live in this abandoned building. And I used to hang out with him, you know, and bring him food and stuff like that. Me and Paid would bring him food. And we used to hang out with TNS, who was also a real good friend of mine. TNS. I'll never forget him. You know, I haven't seen him. I spoke to him not that long ago. He's like a real old friend of mine, you know, and L was just like one of a kind. He always tags up L. He was like with L how I was like with Shy, you know, and I loved L too, you know, but Shy was like, you know, how me and Shy were, man, you know, it was crazy, you know. When every day I still think of him, man, you know, like the pain never goes away. They say, oh, you know, after a certain amount of time, you get over it. You never get over when a close friend who's like a brother to you and, somebody you did so much with passes away. You know, you never get over that, man. At least with a person with a heart like mine, you know.
Right. Much respect, man, and
Yeah,
may
thank
Shy
you,
rest
man.
in peace.
Yeah, always,
Um,
man. Always.
yeah, and so as we're moving forward, yeah, of course, people are starting to see, I'm glad we're having this talk because they can see how prolific you were, and the variety of work you were doing over the
Look at
many
that dude.
years, and this is towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, not really. No, that was
This
like
is what,
80.
86, 87,
No, that was 84.
84.
Yeah, that was 84, 83. 84. 84.
And so here, this is a good segue, Min, because years ago, you did this drawing. I really, really wanted it. I thought it
Yeah,
was,
and I wouldn't give it to you.
yeah,
And you were like, yo, man, you got to give it to me.
I mean, it's an extraordinary, when I talk about style and the evolution of style, particularly in my generation, where you were going, which I think was kind of a culmination of all the greats and what they were trying to develop. You started taking it into a kind of very unique direction, and um, just I loved everything about this era of your drawings because it reminded me of the greats like Part and Kell and the TDS people who used to draw with a pen and
Yep,
not
no
marketed,
pencil, no
right?
pencil, no
And there's a
erasing.
mastery there because it's not just about using the pen, is what you're seeing on the paper, right? What you're pulling out
Yep,
of the paper that
that's
doesn't
coming out
exist.
of your soul into, from your mind through your finger. You know, and I'm
Right.
sure somebody like Part could relate to something
Well, here's what's unique
like
about
that.
this, Wayne. For me, what's unique about this piece is that one, that well, I have it, but also that I painted it, but more so that if we move forward and we look at this proof piece that your son did, um, your son is amazingly talented, and
Oh,
just
you should see him now. That's 4 years old. You should see what I'm sure you've seen the stuff he does now. He's
yes,
unbelievable.
it's
My
like
son is incredible.
he inherited the energy, the line.
Yeah,
For
through my
instance, this
DNA.
is
He got it from my DNA.
yeah. For instance, this is 1986.
Yeah,
That's you.
yeah.
And this is your son doing a jester piece,
Look at that.
and I gotta say I'm super impressed. I mean, look at
Yeah,
the
he's
hand style.
unbelievable.
Look at the hand style. I mean, it really it's your DNA for sure. A little tribute to you.
Yeah, he does a
And
lot of
that
tributes to me.
right, and that's a very unique thing. In terms of graph, not you don't often see that like a father and son handoff that looks so close and then moves it a little forward. Um,
Yeah,
so interestingly, as we start wrapping this up, man, there are a couple of things I want to cover with you. Of course, look, no more trains any on the train, so to speak. But but you know, I love this
look at
picture
that.
that you have a canvas with an any throw up in front of it. Uh, Given that there are no more trains to paint for you, right? I know that at a certain point in your career, you also were interested in painting on canvas. This I'd never seen. Tell me what year and where was this done?
This was done in my house in Flatbush in 1982.
And and was this on canvas or just on the
Yes,
wall?
canvas. It's
So,
canvas.
that time, right? Everybody was starting to show and thinking about, we were coming out of Sam Essie's and no, Fashion Moda and all this stuff. Did you have any desire to kind of like say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try to be an artist, a studio artist on canvas? Did you have any intention for that?
Um, Not really. It just came that way. You know, everything just like flowed to what it became. You know, and it's like, one thing I could say, man. I mean, damn, look at that dude. That dude is crazy. You know, that shit is crazy.
So
And look at that
tell me
man. That's
about
from '83. That's when I was
yes,
bombing.
yes. Let's talk about this because this was an important period. You and Kel were going hard in City
Going
Hall, and
hard.
he
And
was
we had
working
our
at
own
Pearl Paint
studio.
at the time, right? And
Yeah.
and you had a studio in Tribeca.
Yeah.
That people don't know this. There was that studio that you and him had set up and were constantly painting canvases.
Every day. And then we'd go to the layout at lunchtime.
Tell me a
It's
little bit
crazy,
about that
right?
period.
Um, well, the guy that hooked me up with the studio was a connection to this hippie dude that I used to buy weed from. And he was very rich. And he saw my work and he loved it. And he built a whole studio into his loft. And just, you know, he bought the paint for that. But, all that paint that we bombed with, I racked up. I was a crazy racker, man. I know you know that. You've seen me rack. I was a maniac. You know, I was so little and I'd work out with like 25, 30 cans. People could say I'm exaggerating. You've seen it yourself,
Yep.
you know?
I know that to be
And how
true.
could I have bombed the way I did unless I racked thousands and thousands and thousands of cans? I used to rack about 300 cans like on Saturday and about 200 to 300 on Sunday. And it would all be done that weekend. It would all be gone that weekend. And then the next weekend, I'd start all over. And Kelly used to come to my house when I lived on 57th Street. And he could tell you I always had two like shelves full of paint. And it would all be new paint because me and him would use it every week, you know? And, you know, it's
And so,
just crazy. People have to realize there's a lot to bother that, you know?
yeah, there is. And Wayne, you know, given that we were talking about canvases and that, you know, in our in our lifetime we've seen graffiti go from trains to galleries to museums. Like we have the museum in Miami. Um, Now you've kind of been putting some stuff out there. I know these were a private collection with
Yeah,
Metalman Ed,
yeah.
uh, but that many people here would probably want to know maybe if they want to acquire work from you, how they could do that. Um, if you are putting work out there for people,
Yeah.
you should let them
All
know.
they got to do is get in touch with me on Instagram or Facebook. In touch with you. You know how to get in touch with me anytime.
Hmm. Hmm. And
You
so,
know,
you know, Min, you're so iconic that somebody tattooed
me on their arm. I couldn't believe that. That I couldn't believe.
in hindsight, when you think
But
about like um, all of this, right? That, and I know you, I know you well. You didn't do it for the fame, for anybody's approval. You didn't do it for the galleries, but you influenced so many people. And in hindsight, and as we started reviewing your work, um, what could you share that we don't know about you, and why you went in so hard?
well, I just wanted to do something to graffiti that had never been done before, and that is do wild style top to bottoms on lines people never did them on. Wild style throw ups and just bomb, to a point where, you know, nobody, can like, say that they've done that before. Somebody like he did a lot. He did, I give him a lot of, he influenced me. So I'm not even gonna like, compare myself to him. You know what I'm saying? So, but, you know, just like I said in the movie, in order to, and I hadn't done it yet. In order to call yourself a true king, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to take over with throw ups, you got to take over with burners, you got to take over with top to bottoms, and eventually I did it, and that is one reason why I quit, because eventually I did do what I achieved to do, what I achieved to do, you know. But it was great talking to you, and you know, I just dedicate this whole story, to Shaman 47, EL3, Is the Wiz, all my brothers that passed away, may they rest in peace, BYE, TNS, you know, um, TNS, I hope you're listening to this, my brother, you know, I'm sure you caught it, and, it's always great seeing you, man. Me and you go back. We always brothers to the heart. I can't hear you. I can't hear it.
Likewise, man. Yes, sir, brother.
I'm,
And listen, an honor, and on behalf of the museum. It's an honor, man, and
I'm losing him, right?
on behalf of the museum, I want to thank you for spending so much time with us and allowing us to like share your story, brother. It's a phenomenal story. Uh,
All right, my brother. Yo, only for you, bro. Know what I'm saying? One love and peace to every king out there. I'm losing you, man. I can't hear you.
did I lose you?
Yeah, I didn't hear like what you. I'm still not hearing you. I heard you say I lost you. That's
It
it.
seems like
But you could call me up and tell me.
I lost.
Yeah, we're off. We're off.
Man.
All right, man. Peace.